Why would you want to publish from your PhD? Perhaps you just want to involve yourself in the research, write the thesis, and get the credibility that goes with a PhD or another form of doctorate, and that's enough. But for most of us, we also expect to share our work perhaps during and certainly after we've completed a PhD. So I think it's worth considering what is the journal, article, or book journey that you need to go on next if you want to publish from your PhD. One thing you can do is perhaps publish the whole thing as a book. If you do that, you will also need to revisit it because actually this is a doctorate which spends a long time laying out why we did, what we did, how we did it, and what the contribution to knowledge is. And the whole of the first part of your thesis is explaining your processes, really. So should you want to turn your PhD into a book, you will be working quite a lot with that first part to make it more reader-friendly rather than supervisor and examiner-friendly. After that, your new content is probably going to be fine, and good luck with finding an editor for it and a proper publisher and somebody who would like to welcome a new book by a new researcher and a new writer. And many of them will help you develop it into a book that will be your first book. But most of us usually try and produce an article from the PhD, and perhaps while we're completing it. Examiners that I've interviewed have said that the credibility of getting an article out before you finish your PhD really satisfies them that your work is publishable when they actually look at the thesis itself. They think it's already publishable, it's already at that standard, and then they go in with a positive view. So it's definitely worth it politically. It's also worth it because you're actually entering that world of publication that you're going to be in from now on, should you want to publish in the future and further from your PhD. Some people say it detracts from the momentum of doing the research and writing the long document. So you have to think carefully whether you have time to do an article while you're also shaping this 80,000 to 100,000 word thing, this doctorate, this thesis that you're writing. But since it does give you more confidence and more I suppose, credibility in the field, it might well be worth doing at least one article while you're doing the PhD. So I'm going to think about the article trajectory now. Where are you going to send it? What is the readership you want? That's the first question, really. Your choice of a journal to send your article to will be based on thinking about who's going to read it. And also based on the journals that you have read yourself and you have used. So if you're not sure where to send it, look at where you're reading your journal articles that have informed your own research. You're already in the conversation with them by using them and the articles within them, within the different discussions going on in a journal. And your work already fits into that conversation. So have a look at the rules for these 2 or 3 different journals that you have used a lot of articles from in your own work and see which is the best fit for this particular article that you're going to take out of the developing PhD and let it stand alone and go out into the world of publication, or that you're going to take out of the already passed PhD to also stand alone. So go back through the journals, have a look, which ones suit your work, which ones could your work suit. If you can't find one through that process, look online or look back through the work of people whose work you've used. So if you have an author, a critic who appears quite a lot in your own work, where do they publish? So we always track back. Now you've probably got a list of 5 or 6. You never send your article when it's ready to all of those journals. You only send it to one at a time. This has time implications because actually getting your journal article accepted is usually quite a long journey. So which journal do you pick? I would suggest don't go for the very top. Your work might well be world-shattering, but new authors often don't get in with their first article into the top journal. And it's very distressing to have it sent back, this article, over and over for more corrections till it's finally not actually accepted, and you've wasted a lot of time. So I'd suggest go for the middle, depending on where you're doing your publishing. In South Africa, there's the Department of Higher Education and Training's list of journals that are acceptable, so definitely fit your work into that. Elsewhere, there's also the issue of not writing for predatory journals, because we know when we see where you've published that you had to pay a lot of money for this, you didn't get it edited properly, they're probably not the right place to publish, and everyone feels a bit suspicious about them. I know that's a political statement, but I'm sticking by it. Don't go for predatory journals. Probably send your first piece to a journal that's round about the middle. It's got a good impact factor, which means that 2 years' worth of the articles in this journal, the citations from them have been calculated to produce an impact factor. So it's about the middle. It's not, amazingly at the top, so that the editor actually usually desk rejects most things that come in. Some journals at the top of the list will reject 85% or more of the articles that come in. Sometimes because they're out of scope, but sometimes just because they have got the pick of the bunch and yours or mine didn't quite make it. So not to be rebuffed at the first go for the middle. And making sure, of course, then, as I said, it's not a predatory journal, it's a reliable journal, and you have a sense from what has been published before that your article is a good fit. Have a look through previous articles that they've published so that you can involve some of those articles in your own work. So you're referencing things that have come out in the journal previously and actually joining that conversation. That's not flattery, it's not trying to wheedle your way in, it is actually joining the conversation of that journal. So now you've found the journal that you'd like to write for. Have a look at the rules. There's online rules. You don't have to guess. Every journal's got a web page, and they will explain how long it should be, what the layout is, how they do their referencing. And if you read back through several issues, an issue is one journal, and an edition is a year's worth. Read back through several issues and have a look at the take on your particular area of work so that you can join that specific conversation and reference a couple of those previous issues. So now you've slightly affected your article. It's in the right shape. It's joined the conversation. It's referenced some work that's been in the journal before. It's perfectly laid out. There are absolutely no errors. You're really confident about it. You will now have to upload it into the online system, which takes a long time to register. So be patient. Took a long time to write the article as well. Once you've registered with a particular system such as Scholar One or Manuscript Central or whatever it happens to be, you will find it quicker next time you submit to them. And sometimes they control several journals, so it's not time wasted. So you've finished it, it's perfect, you love it, off it goes, and then what? Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 months before you get the reviewers' responses back. That's partly because reviewers are unpaid. They're doing this as an extra activity because they want to be in the conversation themselves. And also, sometimes it's very, very difficult to get people to agree to review. So that doesn't mean that your work's no good. It means it's taking a long time to get the reviewers to respond. So be patient. This is the process. You sent it in, it goes into review. It'll probably have 2 or 3 reviewers. They'll read it very carefully, and then they'll produce responses. And the responses vary, obviously, across the journal span, but mostly it would be reject, we don't want that, revise and resubmit. So it's got some promise, and they've made some suggestions about how you might make it better, improve it for the journal, cohesion, topicality, use of data, whatever it is they want you to work with. Quite often one of the issues that journals send articles back for is that you haven't explained fully about your ethical processes. Do explain that you got ethical clearance if you needed it. Or you haven't explained fully what your methodology and methods were. So you set something up, it's very exciting, and then you make some conclusions, but in the middle you've not talked about this complex research process that you went through. So make sure you've got all the parts in the right place and that it's a really good whole. So they won't send your article back for these important, significant gaps. So eventually it comes back then. And it's I said, it's revise, it's reject, revise and resubmit, and then major modifications or minor modifications, or absolutely perfect. We don't want anything done to it. That last one's really very rare. It's very rare that they say, don't do anything, it's wonderful. They'll always want you to make some changes. If you have two reviewers, we hope that they're asking for the same kind of changes, but they're two different people. They haven't spoken to each other. They might want different changes. And your job now is to take your favourite article, have a look at what the changes are needed, the corrections they might call them, or recommendations, but you do have to do them, and be a little bit empowered about this. I think it's a good idea to put these recommendations or corrections into a grid. On the left-hand side, what is it, what the reviewer one wants? What do you think about it? How are you going to deal with it? Where you've made the changes. So you can then highlight in the change text where you've made the changes, and they can see it in the grid. Reviewer 2, same thing. What do they want you to do? You've considered it. Maybe you are not going to make all the changes that they ask for, in which case explain why not. Some people have a theory that they want everyone to use, and they will comment on that you haven't used it, and you say there in your little grid you haven't used it because it's the other theory was more appropriate for the research and the article. So if you are rejecting a suggestion, and don't reject too many of them, this is quite political, you need to explain why. And you're always showing when you've made a change where they can find it exactly in this revised text. So you've got a cover letter, you've got a grid responding to changes, and then you have a track changed version of your article, and then you have an absolutely perfect, flawless version of your article. You send it off again, it might well come back for more work, send it off again. I mean, obviously, if this went on for about 12 times, you'd all give up. But usually 2 or 3 times is normal, and not everybody realises that. And then finally, back comes your journal article for you to have a look at the way in which it's going to be seen online or in print, and to make some final corrections or some final answers to things like, have you got somebody's location, the university that they work at right? Have you got your own affiliation right? There might be some reference that you've missed out in the middle. You make these corrections online, and you can't get out of the system till you've made them. Then off it goes, and it's already been copy edited, you've done your final corrections to it, and then you wait for it to be published. One of the things that affects the choice of the journal that you send your work to in the first place is how quick it is to publication. If it's almost overnight, then you're probably looking at a predatory journal, and they don't do any work on your work, and it'll look messy, and you'll be embarrassed about it. But a respectable journal will take quite a long time to bring your work out, because they've usually got a pipeline. So don't feel that they've forgotten you. And if you are worried, then I suggest you write to the editor and say, I wonder when this might be coming out, because I'm hoping to share it, and, colleagues of mine are looking forward to reading it, and that sort of thing. But don't pester the journal editor too much, because it is a flow, it is a process. But you do want it out in time. When it comes out, usually they suggest that you've got something like 40 e-prints, and you can let people know on social media and people that you know that this is out. If they'd like one of the free e-prints, this is where to go and collect them. And once all 40 have gone, that's it. There are no more. But now many journals are actually open access. So that when you're picking the journal to which you're going to send your work, you will need to think, are they open access or not open access? Open access, of course, means that the funding is usually enabled, the funding for the journal to come out, enabled by either the authors or their library system or some other system that their university is related to, will be paying the article processing charges. In South Africa, the article processing charges for the journal article are paid by the author, but possibly reclaimed by their university. In much of the rest of the world, the author pays it themselves, or there will be something like the Joint Information System, the JISC system in the UK, something like that that libraries are related to, where the articles will be paid for by that system. It's inequitable because there are many countries and many universities that are not part of this system. So I know that publishers are working to find equitable ways through for individuals and universities that don't have the money to pay for publishing charges. This might sound too technical, but believe me, when you get to the point of deciding where to send it and wanting your work to be read by others, that the money will come into it. So at the moment, the payment is on the person who's done the writing or on a system that they're related to. And quite a lot of articles then are available freely after publication, gold open access. This is called, but more and more are becoming freely available. So the reader won't have to pay to look at them. But if your article is in a system where the reader does have to pay to look at them, then they will have to find a way to go behind the paywall and pay to see your work, which is why it's very important that your work actually relates to the abstract, which has gone online, freely available, because after that they pay to get access to it. So pick your best work, turn it out through the right publisher, through the right journal. Be ready to make those changes that are wanted by the referees. If they're asking for things that take it in two different directions, talk to the editor about this. What should I actually do? Be ready to make the cosmetic changes at the last minute, and then be ready to market your work when it's out by telling people you know that it's there, sending emails, putting stuff up on social media, and then it'll be read and it'll be cited, and well done. You're in with your first publication.